to Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It is time for us to go into detailed analysis of our newspaper stories inside of Freshly Pressed 981. I am Valentine Obu.
And I'm Ayomira. I say good morning and thanks very much for staying tuned. You can watch us live on YouTube or streaming on Smooth 981 FM Lagos. That's our YouTube channel. And also, you can send us a message on WhatsApp.
0809 is the number. Mr. C, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Naya. Good morning,
Morning, Mr. C.
Lagos.
Good morning, Wade Ahimian. Welcome.
Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Mr. C. Okay, it's
Well,
my birthday today.
Is it?
Oh, happy birthday!
Happy birthday. You can keep that
Wade.
down. Congratulations. Happy birthday to you.
Thank
Happy
you very
birthday.
much.
No wonder you're looking so good and so bright this morning.
So hopefully rice and stew very plenty, yeah?
RSVP.
Hopefully.
Alright, let's get on the stories now. Send us your messages. Remember, WhatsApp again, 0809 and you can watch on YouTube.
All right, first story here, Mr. C. Mr. C came into the studio this morning saying, "What kind of depressing headlines do we have today?" So just new warning ahead, just to mention that the stories are not very bright, but hopefully our conversation would brighten it up to see solutions. 8 killed in reprisals over Kaduna killings. This day reports. Before we talk about the reprisal attack, Mr. C, unfortunate incident happened in Karora local government area in Madamai village of Kaduna State, where 34 people were killed, including one Yakubu Danjuma in Zangon Kataf, LGA. Now, we had reports that the Kaduna State government has received reports from security agencies of an attack by unidentified persons on Kasere village, Zangon Kataf, LGA, which has resulted in the deaths of some citizens. Also noting, I'd like to just mention what stood out for me as well, aside the unfortunate killings, the response by the Governor Nasser El-Rufai. The governor appealed for recourse to the law and urged communities to eschew reprisals and similar violent actions. He expressed deep sadness at the reports and offered his condolences to the families of the deceased as he prayed for the repose of their souls. I can't count how many deep sadnesses and condolences have been offered in Kaduna State in recent times without deep action and active response to ensure that the lives and property of people are safe. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, Mr. C.
Okay, thank you, Ayo. Like you rightly said, every time there's a gruesome attack, there's a gruesome incident, the respective state actors come out. First, they're shocked,
Yeah.
then they're saddened, then they ask God to give the families of the deceased the repose to bear the loss. And that's the end of the matter.
And
They make promises, they make statements that the incidents will be investigated and that the perpetrators will be brought to book, will be brought to justice. More often than not, we never see the perpetrators. Now, the sad thing is when people lose their trust in the law, in the ability of the state to ensure that wrongs perpetrated on them are not only investigated but adequately sanctioned, you will have reprisal attacks, and this is what has happened. The earlier attack happened. Apparently nobody was identified, nobody was arrested, nobody was taken in for questioning, and the people just must have decided. Now, we must state very clearly here for Nigerians, reprisal attacks are wrong.
Yeah.
Two wrongs never make a right. And
Attacks are wrong completely.
yeah, but no, but
I get what you mean.
attacks are wrong. But if you are attacked, you should not resort to self-help. You should not resort to vengeance. You should not resort to retaliation. You should rather leave it for the state authorities. But then I hear questions, Mr. C, you're being hypocritical. This is Nigeria. The authorities never seem able to investigate anything, let alone punish the perpetrators. But if we resort to attacks and counterattacks, attacks and reprisals, we're moving back to the Hobbesian states where there is the complete breakdown of law and order. And it behoves on the state actors that, look, you cannot continue to express sadness
Yeah.
It is the families that express sadness. You have to be up and doing, and you have to continue to protect the lives of the people. Now, incidentally, the foreign countries are watching and reading these stories, they're watching the events. Then you come and tell them that their citizens should come, move into Nigeria and invest in your economy. Who are we deceiving? And this is a sign. You have a government that cannot live up to its responsibility. Elections are around the corner. We're entering another political season. This is one of the key points that should be used to hold incoming administrations to accountability. That, look, listen, if you are unable to protect and secure the lives of the people within your territory, why are you still in office?
Thank you very much, Mr. C. And we don't want it to sound like like we've accused the state actors, like you mentioned, of just the same rhetoric after another attack, another sadness. It's really, and I'm sure a number of people in the minds of many Nigerians is what's the way forward. When I read this, you can't really blame the governor as it were, because he doesn't have the responsibility of security is not totally in his power. We still don't have state police, so he can only literally, to a certain extent, offer his condolences, because as long as security and police is at the federal government level, what is the governor supposed to do?
So I agree with you that to a certain extent, the state governor and all state governors by extension are a bit hampered or hindered in their ability to effectively police and secure the state. So a solution, it's a very radical solution.
Yeah.
Give Nigerians the right to legally own firearms.
Hmm.
Now, if you
Ah,
know,
Is that
no,
gonna-
no,
That's a big
No,
it's fine.
no.
We can settle, because that's a big debate.
if
Take
you
that on.
if you give me the right to own a firearm, and then someone comes wanting to kill me or any member of my family, I will be in a position to adequately defend them. Now, these assailants, these perpetrators, these murderers, these attackers, these terrorists, they come suitably armed. Now, you cannot face them, you cannot secure the lives of your loved ones. And then when the worst happens, the state actors come out and express their sadness.
I think that might be more anarchy. But you know what? Let's hold that thought. At 8:10 during Lagos Talks 901, we're going to open the phone line so that people can share their thoughts. Should Nigerians be given the right to own their firearms, since the federal government doesn't seem to be able to contain or provide security of lives and property? Since it seems, it's not a total statement, just to bear that in mind. All right, let's go on to our next story. The 2023 Northern governors reject rotation of presidency, back federal government on VAT, Premium Times. Now, this conversation around rotation of presidency, zoning, and in particular VAT has now gone beyond party levels.
Yes, it has.
It is no longer, this is our ideology as APC or PDP, this is our stance, is to your tent, O Israel. Governors of Nigeria's northern states have rejected the principle of rotational presidency, saying it is against the constitution of the country. And this is a quote: "The statement is quite contradictory with the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, that the elected president shall, in case you all have forgotten, score the majority votes." Okay, they didn't say that in case, but score at least 25% of the votes, casting 2/3 states of the federation, just to remind us all.
And I totally agree with them. I don't understand the rotational basis of presidency of Nigeria. Let Nigerians who are in the political atmosphere, let them go and play the politics that needs to be played. If you want to become the president, go out there and garner the votes and win the election. Don't come and say, oh, we want this bloc to vote for me, or we don't want that bloc to vote for me. There are 36 states, 18 in the north, 18 in the south. So it means that if you don't have at least two areas of Nigeria, the north and whether it's, you break them into geopolitical zones, the north, the west, and the east, two blocks must come together to ensure that you win an election. So go and politics. Let's stop this primary school politicking of saying, oh, zone it to this side, and then it's convenient for you to say, okay, we'll elect someone or we'll nominate someone to be a presidential candidate. So that is for me. So let them go and play the politics properly. With the issue of VAT, I knew they were going to come to this. Why? And they do make a good point, saying that a lot of the VAT comes from Lagos. A lot of VAT that comes from Lagos State. It's for me, it's an excuse. It's because a lot of the multinationals have their businesses or their head offices in Lagos, which is true. However, it's the same way that these multinationals have their head offices in Lagos and have offices across Nigeria, and they pay the what's it called, personal income tax to the states where you're resident. So it doesn't change for that. I've heard discussions around this. I've heard people talk about this, and this is really where it should get to. You need to know where you're making the money, where the service is being provided, the end service is being provided, and you would know. And the issue of VAT also is dependent on where the end service is, where your supplier who is asking you or who is charging you the VAT is located. So states should actually ensure that rather than sit down and wait for the federal government to collect it and share it amongst them, go and generate businesses or bring businesses into your states and improve your internally generated revenue system, rather than just sit down and say, okay, federal government to collect it and then we share it accordingly, according to how much you generate or the number of people in the state and so on. So on the VAT issue, I disagree with them. But in terms of the zoning of the presidency, let Nigerians go out and politic and
fair and square. Let everyone throw their hat in the ring. Okay, Mr. C, you're going to say something.
I have a divergent opinion. Now, if we say in an ideal situation where these submissions are completely correct, Nigeria is not an ideal situation. If we were to apply merit, strictly speaking, some regions would never produce the president. Just like if we were to apply merit in education, a lot of northern students will not get into federal government.
Sorry, Mr. C, I don't know why we should be lowering our standards because we are Nigeria. And it beats me every time when everybody says, but this is Nigeria. So the standards that have been set, and Nigerians are quick to say, oh, we want to be a world class, we want to do world class standards. Then how does he come and say, oh, this is the situation in Nigeria? Go out there and politic and win the minds of people, and they will come out and vote for you.
Do you think, though, that in order to, and we had a similar conversation, but on a slightly different, no, it's like a different note, this time with gender, should we have seats for, should we have a particular seat for,
we spoke about that last week.
We spoke about that in detail, but this is in regards to ethnicity and tribe. And Mr. C, I hear you, Ode. Would you also say that until we achieve this ideal state, to get to that ideal state, should we adopt a way of making it equitable?
How do you get to an ideal state if you continue to put systems that are weak from the onset? You get to an ideal state by people continually trying, and people will start to say, oh, we can get there. And we use the example of the female gender in leadership. And we looked at it, look at the private sector. Some of the biggest businesses in Nigeria are run by women today. They didn't create that space so that they could come and become the MD or the chairman of the board. They had worked for it, and the system will continually improve. And once you improve yourself and you show that you're capable, you will get there.
All right. Okay, so thank you very much. Let's take some comments. ITK from Lekki saying that if the northern political stakeholders and governors reject the power shift to the south, it means the southern political stakeholders and governors should perhaps back this secessionist call now before it's too late. I'm sure people have different thoughts on this.
Shegun says if governors cannot secure anything, can they return their security votes? Edgar says, happy birthday, Wadi. Edgar from Ikorodu here. So, Mr. C, I feel the overwhelming tiredness in your voice. In a country that guarantees you no security, the best is to protect yourself with all means possible, including force.
And then Samuel from Lekki says, good morning. So it's a loss. It's a loss for the South. We don't have restructuring. We're probably not going to be presidency zone to the south or see the presidency zone to the south by the APC or PDP. So what's the country for?
It's for everybody. Google says, I agree with Mr. C. Give Nigerians the right to legally own firearms legally. That's the solution. He said, then you, as government, can concentrate on ensuring no one owns arms illegally. The The earlier we accept this reality, the better. Forget this talk about degenerating to anarchy because they were already there. So Ugo and others, there's an angle we're not seeing to this. First of all, you have to have a strong security network for you to have to the confidence to offer liberty to the citizens to carry arms. But who regulates the possession of arms?
We'll discuss this. I look forward to that conversation at 8:10 during Lagos Talks. Papa Darisa says, unless I'm mistaken, the governor is the chief security officer of the state. He should do everything within his power to protect the citizens. Our governors need to think outside the box. The problems have been there from inception. They were not forced to take that position. In some instances, they use these situations as campaign slogans.
So true. And then I'm just worried, right? See that first story that we treated, reprisal. Reprisal attacks are attacks that are following another one, right?
Because there was injustice.
So there's a history to it. Are you saying the governor has no clue, and all they do at each time, like each moment, we read headlines and these throw out arms in the air?
Valentine, it
We
was
did not know
Zango
reactionary.
Kataf is really a peculiar place. It's not today. It's been since the 80s.
So which definitely implicates them as having the knowledge of this and not doing anything to curtail it.
Or we're not aware of what they've done.
All right, let's move on. Our time is fast spent. I
Yes.
know, Mr. C, you're trying to avoid all the stories, but we will take all of them. Okay, so kidnapping, Mr. C. Allow paupers serve in home state, Afenifere tells NYSC. I'm actually glad we've come around to talk about the NYSC handbook. We couldn't take it because it broke on Friday and Saturday, so it wasn't really new news, if I put it that way, on Monday. However, Pan Yoruba social political group Afenifere has brought it to the fore as they have urged the National Youth Service Corps to allow core members to serve in their respective home states till security agencies stop the menacing spate of kidnapping and the insecurity in the country. Just to remind people, it was found out in the NYSC handbook on page 56. There's a quote from there. They were advising corps members traveling on high-risk roads to alert their family members, friends, and colleagues to have someone on hand to pay off the ransom that could be demanded. This was their solution to keeping the lives of human beings, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of human beings. Please take us to this story, Mrs. C.
Serving the country.
Yeah.
You need to add that
So
part.
it goes beyond what you said. They were also advised in the same handbook to develop a relationship and friendship with their kidnappers. This is just the absurdity that is Nigeria today. Now, why was the NYC set up? In the immediate aftermath of the Nigerian Civil War, it was a scheme designed to reintegrate Nigerians such that if you studied in Lagos, for example, you shouldn't serve in Lagos. You should go to other parts of the country. So it was a means whereby the original goal was for Nigerians to live in places they ordinarily did not come from or would probably not have visited, and stay there for a year, learn about the customs, the traditions, and even learn about the way of life of those people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was hoped that that will foster unity. Now, it's open to debate whether the NYC has lived up to those goals, but to some extent, yes. Could it have done a lot better? Certainly. Now, today, we have the problem of insecurity. Forget what the administration tells us, forget what the security guys tell us, that they're on top of the matter, they're on top of nothing. Because that handbook was prepared by their security consultant, a retired colonel of the Nigerian Army. It is an admission by the Nigerian state that it does not have abduction and kidnappings under control. It does not have the security situation under control. Now, to Afenifere's request that corpers serve in the states, does that not defeat? I understand completely where they're coming from. That if you serve in your state or where you live, the chances of you being kidnapped are reduced, and I agree with that. However, does that not conflict or contradict the original aim and goal of the NYC?
Then we'll go back to that conversation of is it necessary? Is it relevant?
I still think it is, because there are a lot of Nigerians who are insular, who have grown up in one location and probably haven't traveled out for any reason. So they grow up primary school in that state, secondary in that state, university education in that state. We need to go out, interact with other Nigerians to understand ways of life that are not ours. Because when you interact with people that are outside your grouping, you become exposed to different perceptions, different perspectives to life, and you're a more rounded individual. You cannot compare an individual who's lived an insular life in one location to one who's interacted widely with people from different locations.
Agreed.
Now, I don't know what the plan is. It would make sense given our current security realities that we should sort of restrict the movement of these corpers, given the fact that the government, for now, cannot secure the lives of anyone.
It's a temporary measure.
Yes.
So should we suspend the NYC temporarily?
I think it's a no-brainer, really.
No, for some
It's
people,
just,
they're
it's just
saying
share
that.
wheel.
But I'm careful not to provide a categorical answer because the NYC has served as a means for people to get employment they ordinarily would not have gotten.
Bros, please, what's employment?
Good.
Are there jobs? Are we secure? Do you want to send your kids to a state where they're
I really
They
have
need to be alive to do your work.
I'm having fun this
Let's
morning.
get some more stories. This story is from the Vanguard newspaper, and it talks about, it speaks about the e-naira that's coming. I know most people are still, pessimistic as to the relevance of it, but there's a committee of e-business industry heads. One of the things I like in this report is the fact that they make it clear the disparity between that and crypto, because that was the first misconception. If it's CBN's own version of cryptocurrency, but it's not. It's just a digital currency that is the same as naira. It's just that it's an e-version, which means there's no physical cash. Most people, especially experts of this end, have mooted the idea that it would improve financial inclusion amongst many things. But what are your thoughts as to the relevance of it that was enumerated in this story?
Valentine, when I started reading this story and I was having a discussion with Mr. C, I asked myself the question: when you do a transfer using whether it's your USSD or whatever, what exactly is that? Is it not e-naira?
I know.
And that's the question.
Yeah.
So what you want is financial inclusion. And for me, rather than CBN actually going out there and looking at an industry that is beginning to do a lot in terms of financial inclusion, you just want to come up and probably, for me, get some more monies to buy some more equipment, and the head of IT feeling cool that we're doing in era. That's what you've been doing, and that's what has been the policy for us Nigeria to be cashless, and that for me is what it is. So if you go down in the story, I think yes, it says it's not crypto, but
there's a part where it was explained by the chairman of Adeyemi Atanda.
And that's the beauty of what he explained it properly.
Can I just quote his statement here? It says, when you hear e-naira, think transactional, not investment.
So,
because as with every new thing, people feel like there's a business opportunity there.
And it's the same thing as paying, whether you use the POS, you use your internet banking, or you use your USSD. It's transactional.
So what's the difference in this sense? Because banks are now being encouraged to update their systems to be able to handle these kind of transactions, because it's perceived that the volume of transactions with the e-naira will improve or will increase.
The banks have been ready for a while because they've been doing a lot of all this for a while. Now, what you're trying to do is get more people who don't have, and like you said, about 85% of people have car outside the system, and that's what you want to bring in. Now, what I know is that there are a number of small fintech businesses who are providing that solutions in marketplaces and all. And at the end of the day, what you want to do is get CBN to ensure that they can regulate that aspect properly and get these people online rather than...
Especially with the creation of wallets, because that's something new that
and financial institutions are beginning to work with these people.
Thank you so much, Wade, for your analysis on this one. Let's move on to stories, but after this message.
Damilola Alawi says, how is zoning and rotational presidency the most important issue facing any governor in today's Nigeria? Our elites are only in power to keep themselves in power. The northern governors should go and confront insecurity firmly entrenched in their domains.
Speaking of which, security is beefed up, or is now beefed up at the National Assembly over legislative aids plan protests. So when you read the first part of this sentence, you feel, or the first part of this line, you feel like it's being beefed up because there was a perceived threat from non-state actors. But these are people who are protesting their legitimate rights. They are being owed arrears or salaries. Mr. C, please make it make sense.
It's a very shameful development that since 2019, they've been owed 3.1 billion and it comprises the sum of 1.35 billion in salary arrears and 1.75 billion for consequential adjustments on the minimum wage. Now, these are aids whose primary function is to aid the work of the legislators in preparing statutes, preparing laws, and also carrying out their oversight functions. Now, how do you have individuals working for 2 years, they have not been paid? Is that not criminal? Now, who is being sanctioned for this? There's just a culture of impunity in this country. We speak about it each time, everywhere. And we have the clerk of the National Assembly admitting that, yes, we owe you, we're on the matter. What does that mean?
So
has he not been collecting his salary since
And
2019?
allowances.
Yes. And what are they asking for? They're asking that, look, trainings be reinstated, duty to allowances be reinstated, other allowances they need to function properly.
3.1 billion.
And their principals have been getting paid, and their principals are not concerned. It speaks to the character, it speaks to the type of individuals we have in the National Assembly. This is completely disgraceful, but sadly, nobody is going to be sanctioned, nobody is going to be punished for this nonsense, and we will discuss this again.
But the interesting part is their principals approved for these amounts to be paid. But the clerk has refused. I'm glad they mentioned the name here. Disobeyed the resolution passed by the House of Representatives mandating him to pay.
Valentine.
Why not bring the same energy that you're using to gather all the security operatives to beef up security? Bring that energy to pay.
Valentine. So,
What are you talking about?
Valentine,
They'll probably pay the security people up front.
Valentine, you gave an instruction that they should be paid. Did you follow up the instruction to find out whether they
Is
were
there
paid?
money to be paid?
Of course, there's money. They're earning money. There's money.
So it's a good question that Ayo
Yeah,
asked.
because they talk about approving budgets and there's no money to actually pay out. So there's a budget allocated to each arm. So whether it's to pay the legislators or their officers. So if there's no money in the bank, number one is if money was put in there, who has it in a fixed deposit somewhere so it's accruing?
But they can pay their own
So
salaries.
that's money. There's money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But in that account to pay out, they obviously if they're not paying for 2 years.
Ayo, their salaries and allowances are not stopped. Their travel tours are not stopped.
Yeah, but the thing is this, right? As with many other things that we say, does the action, okay, I even say action, that's far-reaching, but does it end at just signing a paper? What's the follow-up? The same thing with our departments, ministries, and whatever, railway, maintenance culture.
All right, so we have some
Just gonna
comments
stop
on
here.
YouTube. YouTube from Aisha Abdullah saying, agreeing with Mr. C, those that are cerebrally sound should come out and show their competence. That way Nigeria will become great. That's going back to zoning. And then Ataba Demide says, hello guys, so what happens when NURTW, that's the National Union of Road Transport Workers personnel, carry guns to protect the motor parks? It will be creating a mega monster that cannot and will not be tamed.
All right, with very short time at our disposal, the Guardian headline here reads, Zamfara residents lament indefinite telecom shutdown amid rise in bandits activities. The report here actually say that, the activities haven't necessarily stopped. Security situation hasn't significantly improved. Businesses are being affected. It's been put at 16% or so. This is like the 25th day on this shutdown. What do you see happening after this?
It's very sad. The ban is indefinite, so there's no clear end. There's no clear date to the end. And economic activities continue to suffer. Now, we hear that the banks are not opening, ATMs are empty, and people need to survive. Yes, you claim that you did this to fight the bandits. Now, we hear the bandits are using SIM cards from Niger Republic. So what exactly is going on?
Testing. But the ATMs work on telco networks, yeah?
With
The
what?
telcos are shut down. Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah, they work on the internet now.
No, I mean,
They
they use the same
use the
signal
same
as
signals.
phones.
As
Beyond that, how are the people supposed to call for help if they're being attacked, or someone needs to get urgent medical care?
they will get their SIM cards from the Niger Republic. On the funny
I
side.
I understand there's on the light note, but it's
All right.
It's sad,
Oh,
really
that's
sad.
fine.
yeah. We'll take most messages that we couldn't reach in the next 10 minutes. Please join us then for Lagos Talks 981 and call the number 0144-89981. Thank you, Mr. C and Wadi. Happy
Thank you
birthday,
very much.
Wadi.
Thank you
Happy
very
birthday
much.
again.
Good morning.
The headlines,
We live
the
in a
stories,
country
the news.
and